What is it, my ducks and drakes? Welcome to the Credit Lake. Today I'll be reading chapters 9 and 10 of New Rules, the sanitized fanfic by Bekka911 on Wattpad. If you'd like to support the author or the fic itself, you could do so with the links in the description. They are the first links. I made sure of it. I promise you, they are there. I hope. POV, they're not there. I'm kidding. There's also a link in the description to my Google form where you could recommend Wattpad Read Aloud fics for the future. It does not need to be from Wattpad. It does not need to be written by you. It does not need to be from Sandersize. Any fandom from any fanfiction platform written by anyone. Just recommend it. It's pretty fun. With that, let's get started with Chapter 9. They did the video. Finally. And Logan couldn't help but feel like an outcast. He felt as though he were a mile away across a ravine, trying to shout his thoughts in the middle of a thunderstorm. He wouldn't be heard, and nobody would care to listen. And of course, the whole video was centered around feeling off, because that was Logan's entire reason for existing, apparently. Feelings. Ew. He murmured them for a while, trying to keep his voice droll, his own personal feelings out of it. He argued with Roman because, despite what people claimed, Roman was constantly wrong, all the time, without exception, because he was a fool with his head in the clouds who still believed in dreams. Logan was content to argue because just maybe this point would get across. And then Virgil intervened. Okay, listen up, you two, because I'm getting real tired of this. Roman? The mention sighed, stopped arguing. You get super insecure for some reason, and when that happens, the work suffers. Roman scoffed. What? And Logan. Virgil's voice went just slightly quieter, an almost unnoticeable tremor buried there. A quick look to Thomas proved that their host hadn't heard the strange tremor, or, if he hadn't identified it as something to be concerned about. You get upset anytime anyone throws a wrench in the system, or really anytime things aren't working perfectly, so you start acting like a jerk and making everyone feel stupid. I'm not insecure! Roman shouted before Logan could really comprehend and respond to Virgil's outburst. Really now was not the time or the place for such a meaningful conversation, even though Pennant's face was alight with hope and slight nervousness at such a blatant invitation to talk. Logan opened his mouth because, despite unpopular opinion, he really didn't like being the bad guy, but instead he said, Well, someone has to bring you all into line. Virgil's face shut off completely, and Logan curled his hands into a fist as the words unfeeling robot circled in his head. Bring me into line, Roman said, and for once Logan was grateful that the royal acted like such an airhead for the camera. I'm the one that ensures order is maintained, he insisted, falling back into this easy arguing just to keep his mind off of how upset Virgil had looked. How crushed and hopeless his heart had been when Logan had lost control all that time ago. Without me, you have nothing to maintain in the first place! They both shouted at once. I'm the most important side here! Now, if only he'd believed his own words. It was too easy to fall into that character he was expected to be. He was never logic for any of the Sandersize videos. Merely Logan. They were all reduced to a show, so that it would never go deeper than Thomas's issues, because who would want that? Nobody looked to sadness and a tangle of problems when cheering themselves up. That wasn't how the world worked. He played the fool for Virgil's idiom. He messed with the Rubik's Cube Patton tossed him and spewed facts that sounded smart, and he pretended he was satisfied, because it was his job to keep his host functional and mostly happy. His problems would endanger that, and so he could not bring himself to voice them. But then they started fiddling with character style. Why on this green earth had Logan suggested changing character style? And why did changing character style mean changing into dopey-looking puppets? They looked ridiculous! Patton as a paper bag, Roman with a ridiculous chin, and Virgil as, admittedly, a cute puppet. Being cute did not make him look any less ridiculous. Logan would stand by that statement until Thomas died. Logan, you're up! If by up you mean that I am not down to do this, you are correct, he said dryly, hiding his discomfort at the idea. It just didn't make sense. Aw, Logan, come on, Logan whined. We need you at the table if we're gonna be learning. He really did not want to be here anymore. Please, if it has become quite clear to me co-signing all your ridiculous antics is just a formality. When all of you decided on using puppets to address a serious issue, logic was already figuratively thrown out the window. Roman sighed. Again, you don't have to use the word figuratively. We know you weren't literally thrown out the window. How do you know? Logan snarked back. Have you been watching me constantly? Don't assume, Roman, Patton scowled. You know what happens when you assume. You make an ass out of Sue and me. Logan really wanted to smack his head on something. Repeatedly. Preferably until death. Thank you, Patton. I just don't want to concern anybody about suggesting I was thrown through a window. I want to communicate 5 by 5 that I'm 5 by 5. It's okay, Roman, Thomas added. His intentions are there. I mean, who does going above and beyond with clarity hurt? Going above and beyond, Rowan repeated mockingly, laughing a little. Logan curled his fist tightly. More like going overboard. It's stupid. Stupid? Oh, he was going to show that royal trash can stupid! He threw the screwed-up paper as hard as he could, feeling oddly satisfied with himself as Roman let out a pained yelp. His satisfaction promptly drained away, though, as he evaluated his current emotional levels and came to the conclusion that rising anger and lashing out often led to things like abusive behavior or reclusive and isolating behavior, which he couldn't exhibit, or several things would be severely impacted. I'm sorry, he apologized with a quick but meaningful glance at Virgil. I don't know what that was. Maybe I should go. No! Patton snapped. We are not about to leave it there, mister. There was something heavy in his words. We can't continue this convo if you're gonzo. And then, somehow, they were talking about Sesame Street. Honestly, Logan didn't know how anybody could follow these videos. The conversations were so scattered all the time. So they talked about feelings, which nobody was pleased with, and the fact that it was the main topic of discussion somehow made it worse. And about loops. They spoke about this several times, and Logan was just going to turn into a Fruit Loop himself if they kept going. And Thomas was increasingly self-deprecating. Logan could identify with that. And finally, he could offer input without being laughed at, or mocked, or ignored. He could make headway in the conversation, could start helping Thomas like they were supposed to be doing. Yeah, Logan, help us out, Patton said enthusiastically. What can you tell us about learning new things about ourselves? He took a breath. Well, it goes back to what you made earlier, Patton. Asking the right question. Why? That's right, Rowan said. Today's video is brought to you by the letter Y. No, stop it. Stop. The question, why? W-H-Y. Why? So much of what you feel, Thomas, comes down to whether or not your actions are aligning with your goals. Oh! Patton gasps. I think I get it. Logan just blinked because... What? Yeah! Morality turned to Thomas. Why do you make videos? Because they're fun, Thomas answered. Why'd you make it a job? So I could support myself and so I could try bigger things. Why did your old friend's question stick with you? Because... Thomas's voice trailed off before admitting. Because I always wonder if I'm doing the right thing for a living. Okay, interesting, Logan said loudly, trying to regain control of the situation. Elaborate on that, and nobody do any puppet bits. Of course, I meant Patton had a puppet bit. Well, that was from the electric company. Shh! Logan hissed sharply, waving a hand. Thomas? Chapter 10. Shh! Logan hissed sharply, waving a hand. Thomas? Thomas bit his lip, uncertainly, before dropping his hands to his side. I don't know, he said, sounding a little lost and uncertain. I guess, you know, as far as I know, we get one life, and I guess I have doubts about whether or not I'm making the most of mine. Sometimes Logan couldn't understand irrational human fears. This time, though, was a modern issue like this. He fully endorsed Thomas's insecurities, though he wished that his host would learn to trust himself. Okay, he said, slightly gentler now. We're getting somewhere. Expand upon these doubts. Thomas shuffled. Oh man, I don't know. I don't even know where to go from here. Fair enough, Logan thought. It was hard to tear apart your own career to evaluate whether or not you're wasting your time doing something stupidly tedious with no lasting rewards. I mean, he said, already compiling a horde of facts and examples to help Thomas on his way. If you asked me, I could certainly list off several factors that very well could be contributing to your doubts. If you asked me, I'd gladly share them. Nobody immediately jumped at his offer. Everyone simply murmured uncomfortably. Logan was undeterred. Just let me know if you want to hear what I have to say. Hey, Logan, Virgil said unenthusiastically. Can you list off some of those factors you mentioned? I'm glad you asked, Virgil, Logan chirped. Firstly, there's no job security. I mean, people fall out of public favor very quickly. Virgil then did an, admittedly, it was pretty accurate and highly amusing rendition of Sesame Street's Count. 1. One cause of unease. You're balancing a great deal of responsibilities. People have limits. Perhaps you can't continue at this pace indefinitely. 2. Two nervous thoughts. Your work is inessential. Some may claim that they've been inspired by one thing you've said or another, but who's to say they couldn't have found the inspiration they needed elsewhere? 3. 3 depressing speculations. And maybe it was insensitive, but Logan was on a roll now. Nobody had listened to him before, and he'd known since the beginning that YouTube was not a solid job that Thomas could maintain forever. Frankly, that logical trait was amazed that everything had lasted this long. And, oh, he said, I could think of another one. No one takes you seriously. Patton gasped, but rather theatrically. 4, Logan said, voice only slightly shaky. 4 uncomfortable characters in this room right now. Logan knew it was harsh, but he felt no guilt. Even as he shared a quick look with Patton, Logan had said before, push them away to do what's right for them. Friendship was a roadblock sometimes. When tough decisions had to be made, Logan knew that. And Logan believed he could distance himself enough not to be swayed by sentiment. Thomas' betrayed eyes seemed to burn right through his heart, though, and Logan wondered if he grossly underestimated his own willpower. Logan, Thomas said quietly, is that what you really think? Logan steeled his nerve. Thomas, I have held back my opinions for too long, and that's obviously not benefiting you. I refuse to withhold my perspective any longer. You need a real job. Hey, yeah, Roman said, and immediately Logan wished to set himself on fire and die. Like being a movie star. No, Logan said, voice raised slightly. A real job, Virgil hummed, frowning at Logan, as though the logical side had just declared that My Chemical Romance was nothing but a bunch of losers wailing like dying cats. Sheesh, Virgil sighed. You sloppily ate some jam, accidentally make a few puns, and now you're all sensitive about being taken seriously? I'm not a joke! Logan almost shouted, and then mentally cursed. Damn, too jumpy, too open. It was such an instinctual reaction, especially since he was the only side who wasn't a goddamn puppet. I mean, I can't be thought of as such, because there will be times in which I must be heated, and given our current circumstances, I clearly haven't been. So I'm just saying what must be said. I can't tolerate this foolishness any longer. To Thomas he said, you need to change your life around. There was a beat of silence, and Logan used that pause to try to reel in his messy, complicated reactions. He wouldn't call them feelings, because he was seriously just trying to do right by Thomas. But they were close. Logan, Virgil started, I appreciate what you bring to the table and all, but the thing you just recommended would be a massive change in Thomas's life. So I kind of hate you a little bit right now, and shut your damn mouth. Logan wished that didn't ache as much as it did. Typical. Just because his way of looking after his host was to have an unpopular opinion. I don't know, Verge. Maybe he's right. Thomas sounded so hesitant, so heartbroken, that Logan almost apologized right there and then. He caught himself last minute and raised his chin mutely. Thomas needed to hear this, just as much as Logan needed to say it. Maybe that's the cause of all of this. Thank you all so much for watching. If you'd like to support the author, the links for that will be in the description below, along with that Google form to recommend fics for the future. I love what you guys have been providing to the forum already. I love seeing other people's works. It is amazing! There are also links to my socials in the description, like my Twitter, Instagram, Discord, my Wattpad. There's also a link to a pretty cool Etsy shop, if I do say so myself, where you could buy cool beaded things. And I know it's after the holidays, but it's never not a festive time to treat yourself and do a little thing. I'm sorry, I'm not good at communication. There's a reason I read from scripts and I don't read from my brain. That is rule number 1 of my life. Read from a script. Once again, thank you so much for watching. And much like Logan trying not to freak out during a video, do your best.